was any of it even real, and like I'll never know that because I was manic at the time, so my perceptions of the entire situation I can't really trust. It's this amazing feeling because you're like outside of reality and you're completely free, like you're not constrained by anything, and you're just like pure yourself. You say whatever you feel, whatever you think, and you just like, you don't care and you trust, and like it's beautiful. And so it's like I'll get so manic and I'll be in these dangerous, sketchy situations that could hurt me emotionally or physically, but then it's like all this beautiful writing, all these ideas, inspiration comes out of the experience. And so it's like telling me that I can't fully feel my own emotions that I was given. It's just, it feels so like subjugating, and I just can't. That's why like I made my video like addicted to mania. That's kind of what it was about. Like I can't get unaddicted from this. Like I know it's dangerous, but I can't get away from it because it's me. Like I can't give up myself. It's just, it's terrible. It's like this illness and it's dangerous, but it's how you've come to understand who you are.
I know that it's exciting running through the night, but every perfect summer's eating me alive until you're gone.
Aww, just like what I said with my first impression where he's so genuine.
And they say you're a little much for me. You're a liability. You're a little much for me. So they pull back, make other plans. I understand, I'm a liability. Get you wild and make you leave. I'm a little much.
Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So I have been wanting to make this video since last October when it happened, and I'm really excited. This story is crazy. At the time, I remember thinking it is the coolest thing that has ever happened to me. And not because of the guy, because of the manic episode. It was the most intense manic episode I've ever had in my life. There are just so many things feeding into this, and I think every single one of you will be able to relate regardless of whether or not you have a mental illness or if you've ever been in a situation like this with a guy or with a girl. I think the best way to describe what happened to me is like, and I will start at the beginning, but I just want to like set it up big picture so you guys understand what is going on. So imagine you're reading a book, but it's like your favorite fiction book, and there's the love interest and the main character, and you are the main character in the book. And so not only are you reading the book, but you are the book, like you're existing within the book. But then it ends and you step out of the story and you realize that the person who you were, it wasn't really you. It resembled you, but it was not you. And then your love interest in the book, it wasn't real. But then you find out that the character, the love interest in the book, is based upon a real person, and you're in communication with that person. This sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but this is exactly what it felt like. I was in a manic episode when all of this was happening. You do have bipolar, just be patient. I'm going to like explain to everyone else so we can all like be on the same page and understand each other. But manic episodes are different for everyone, but for me, it's this like euphoric happiness. It's a drug-like feeling. If you've ever been infatuated with someone, it's the same exact type of emotions. It feels like that, just towards everything though. And everything is so fun, and you're laughing a lot, and you're extremely emotionally open, and just everything feels absolutely amazing. It's kind of like the equivalent of getting really drunk, where you'll do whatever you want to do and then you don't remember it the next day. That's kind of like how it was for me, like exactly how it was, where it was like this amazing experience, but then afterwards I had memory loss and I just couldn't even remember all of what had happened. So after this happened, I wrote it all down, and it's almost like I've done this before with a guy as well earlier last year, where like right after the situation ended, I started writing everything down just impulsively, almost like I knew I would forget it. If I had not written it down right after it happened when I was still manic, I would have forgotten all of it and this would not be a video. But I wrote it all down, and I'm actually going to edit it all together and make it into a blog post for my website, which is going to be much better than this video. So go read that after you watch this or before, whichever. So the only reason I'm even able to like make this video is just because I read everything I'd written just now, and I kind of have it all memorized, and I'm going to share it, but it doesn't feel like it's actually my experience. The memories that I do have are reconstructed, and it's from looking above or looking behind from where we were. So I think I have a couple memories I constructed where I can imagine like in the moment what it looked like, but most of my memories from this are like above or behind, or just blank. It's so crazy, it's so crazy. I know that if you have bipolar, you're probably really not okay with the tone of this video so far just because I'm presenting it as something fun, and my thing is that this is my mental illness that I have to live with, and I hate it sometimes. Like, I cry about it almost every day. And so if I want to find one aspect of it to where I didn't get hurt that I think is fun and talk about that, then that's my decision. And if you hate all of your manic episodes and any bad situation ever that happens you just never want to talk about, I respect that, but for me, I like talking about my life. It just makes it easier when I can share about everything. So essentially what happened, so I was using Tinder at this time, and the reason I was not hooking up with people from Tinder at all, I was going on dates with people. And so it's like you'll go get lunch together or go get dinner together and share a meal and just like talk about your lives. Really chill. I didn't have any friends at this time besides my family, and so I was just trying to meet new people, make friends. I was not at all looking for a relationship, and especially just since I'm moving to Thailand, there's no way I was wanting to start a relationship with someone in Florida. It was just like that wasn't my intention at all, and I'd been on other dates with people from the app, and everyone else seemed to be pretty chill and not wanting to rush into a relationship. But then I meet Collin. Collin messages me on the app, and he's very direct, which I really like. So we ended up getting sushi on a Wednesday night, and it happened to be the same night as the election. So the election results were announced on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night is when I met him for the first time. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Hillary, and I campaigned for her. I'm not trying to make this political at all. This is just like my emotional reaction to the election, and it really fed into this story a lot. For some reason, when Trump won, it really scared me, and I was already a bit manic going into this week just because my brain, it'll go like slight manic, slight depression, normal, like it'll go through little like ups and downs even on my medicine just because like I'm a human being and I have emotions. But yeah, so I was already like sort of manic, and on Tuesday, so like the day before this day, I went on another date with another guy, and I was more like happy and open, but it was normal. It wasn't like I was acting crazy or anything. Everyone expected Hillary to win, and so when she lost, I cried, and it was more than that. I felt really scared, and I just felt like I needed to run away and get away and hide, and so I couldn't sleep. I grabbed my car keys, I just left my house at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I just started recklessly driving around just trying to get away, and I ended up just sleeping in my car in a parking lot, and then waking up again at like 5 a.m. and going to the beach and just sitting on the beach watching the sunrise and just feeling so incredibly terrified. I'm not Muslim, I'm not black, I'm not transgender, like I'm white Christian, like I shouldn't have all these, you know, like intense emotions. Like I didn't understand where it was coming from. The reason I feel so scared though is because of the abortion laws, which is weird because I'm a virgin. I would never get an abortion, like I'm pro-life, but I don't know, it's just like a lot of people who comment on my abortion videos, even if you're raped, it's murder if you get the Plan B pill after being raped. People have said that. And so that sort of sentiment is what I was feeling after the election. Maybe it was just completely illogical, but I was just thinking along this framework of like, I was so scared. I felt so overpowered by everyone, and I just needed to get away and run away and hide. And I don't know, maybe everyone else's emotions were part of this too, like every other group that had been marginalized, that had been attacked during the election. Maybe I was just taking on everyone's emotions, but for some reason I just felt really scared. And so all you need to know though is that because I felt so scared, it was like this extreme stress level. I didn't sleep, and this was all happening when I was already slightly manic. So I went to therapy for the first time that Wednesday. I don't even remember what we talked about, but I really liked her. She was really amazing. And then I think I took a nap maybe for like 2 hours before I met up with this guy for dinner. So Collin had been like texting me a lot before we'd even met up officially, which was annoying me because I'm very into productivity, and so when someone's like interrupting my workflow continually, for no reason. It really irritates me. So especially this guy I've never met. So I was kind of like annoyed, but then when I meet him, he's so endearing and charming and polite, and he's just the type of guy who you can't get mad at for being like that. You know, he just seemed very genuine. So we get sushi, and he says he's never had sushi before in his life. He'd grown up in Central Florida in like this rural town. He happened to be a Democrat as well, so I was able to kind of like vent to him about my emotions about the election, and he understood and agreed, and we ended up talking about some really dark, deep thoughts. His brother is gay and they live in Orlando, so he was just saying how the Orlando shooting really affected his family, his brother, and he also, I brought up about how I have bipolar. It's just because I did at the time, like everyone I met then, I talked about it with, and he told me that he goes into depression episodes a lot as well. I wish I could share more details of what we talked about, but I don't remember. All I remember is that I ended up picking a restaurant that was like really dark. I don't know how to explain it, but I wanted it to be like a certain like emotional tone of the restaurant. We ended up talking for 3 hours. Like we met at 6 for dinner, and then we were eating slowly and talking, and then I look at my phone and it's 9 o'clock. You're just like so immersed in the conversation, and then like time just went by, and I think I remember at the very beginning not being that attracted to him and feeling like it was really awkward and just fake flirting. I remember I was fake flirting with him for like an hour and a half, like until I felt more comfortable with the situation. But just remember all of this, that I wasn't attracted to him, that I was having to be fake flirtatious with him. So he ends up paying for the bill, and we end up leaving. We're in this really beautiful like downtown district, and so it has a really big like nightlife scene, so it's just really pretty. There's like a ton of people out in all these bars and restaurants. We end up just walking around, and he says he'll walk me to my car, but my car is like really far away, so I am like, yeah, like you should just drive me to my car. So we're walking to the parking lot where he's at, and we're going through this kind of like alleyway. There is like this giant, you know, building, and there's a mural on it, and it was so beautiful, and we just like stopped and we're looking at it, and he was explaining to me like the meaning of it. It was dark outside, but there was like a stoplight, like a red light, and I remember feeling like, you know, in that part of The Notebook when they're standing after they go and see the movie, they're just like standing in the road and they're like dancing, and then they're like lying on the road, and like then like when a car comes, they'll like jump up and like run. So that's exactly what it felt like. It was the same feeling, like it was like the night, it just like felt like that with like the lights and the painting. I remember just realizing that in a moment, and I was so mad at myself because I didn't want that. Like I didn't want to have feelings for anyone. That wasn't at all my intention in using a dating app, which I know might be weird. I'm like 0 or 100 with guys. I'm either like not taking it seriously, or I'm really into him. And when I meet someone, I know whether or not I'm really into them. I just can read people really well. Like I feel their essences. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I see someone for the first time, I will know whether or not I want to be in a relationship with them. And it doesn't happen all the time. Like it rarely ever happens, but I know when it does. I just know. And so this guy, I didn't have that like moment with him. And so then, but I had feelings for him. So then he's driving me back to where I parked my car. And I remember feeling so angry and just suddenly being like, I'm going to play him, I'm going to lead him on, I don't want this. He drops me off, and I get into my car, and I remember like speeding home, just like I needed to get away, run away. I was just so like, I don't know, just this feeling of wanting to escape. So just remember that too. Just I felt like I wanted to run away from it, get away from him. So then I get back and I text my best friend, and I just want you to see these texts, just because if you have a friend with bipolar and they're texting you like this about a guy, protect them. Get the guy out of the way. Like this is it's not a good situation. Manic, these are manic texts. And I think like with the DSM, a lot of times they ask like, have you ever called someone in the middle of the night? But for me, like when I'm manic, it's like based upon who I'm texting, how much I'm writing, That's how I know I'm manic. And then when we were walking back to our cars, I realized, and I got so angry and annoyed. Like, see, I don't know. This is why, like, what I said, where I feel like everyone can relate. This is just like who I am emotionally. I don't like being in relationships. I love talking to guys and flirting and having all of that going on, but like when I've only been in one actual relationship in my entire life, and I'm 22. Am I 22? I think I'm 22. Yeah. And so it's like, but there have been so many guys who I've like talked to but not actually like been official in a relationship with, and it's because of this. I just don't like having to feel all these emotions and like I guess I just don't like having to trust my own emotions, and it kind of makes sense now with knowing I'm bipolar, just because I really cannot trust my emotions when it comes to guys all the time. It's really distracting too. Like when I'm manic and really like a guy, it's like this like infatuation on steroids, and it distracts you from everything. And having to deal with that once in a relationship, I was just like, I don't have time for this, you know? Like it's just so distracting, and I'm so like focused and motivated for all these other parts of my lives. And so having a guy who just gets this extreme infatuation feeling out of me just because that's my brain is, it's just like not worth it. Okay, and then I want to read to you guys this thing I wrote about that first date. When you're talking to a guy and you stop processing the way he looks and the atmosphere of the room, the way his voice sounds and what you're even saying, because you're so caught up in the way your secrets are streaming out and these dimensions of all his emotions, because an awkward hug just turned into 3 hours of your minds intertwined. And as you're driving back home, it hits you that this total stranger just made you feel all these things you swore you wouldn't fall into for a long time. And he texts me like, really sweet, thank you for going out with me, I'd like to do it again soon. Aww. Just like what I said with my first impression, where he's so genuine. So then I have the brilliant idea of hanging out with him in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods. Isn't that a brilliant date idea with a guy you just met? So then I text him, and this is why I put like hypersexuality in the title, which I don't know if I'm gonna keep all of this edited in, but I kind of want to show you guys like all of what Mania is. So I text him this, and it's almost like the tone, like the implied tone is exactly what I was trying to imply, but it wasn't like I didn't want to hook up with him at all, but it was like my mind like Mania like wanted to be like that, you know what I mean? I want to see you tonight. When are you free? Like, no, I would never ever say that to a guy. Okay, but I did. The second date, we go on this like nature walk type thing. It's the equivalent of a night hike, except in Florida, we don't have mountains. So it was just walking around, and again, I don't remember any of it, but I do remember that I told him all of my soul. I told him everything about me. I did not get hurt by any of this, so you guys don't need to worry, because I don't remember it, so I didn't get hurt by it. This is like what I wrote right after it happened, so I'm just gonna kind of read it. I tell him about every guy I've ever dated, an in-depth plot line of the first short story I wrote, an etymological analysis of my favorite Greek words, all the things I hate about evangelical culture, personality descriptions of each of my best friends, how I feel so emotionally isolated from my family, and how I feel like all of me has been murdered because of bipolar disorder. I poured out my soul to him that night, but it wasn't me. This manic girl took over my brain and told him everything. I was autopilot. I'd explained to him 2 nights before that severe depression was being this third-party observer to your own mind. And now we were both experiencing that fully in Mania. This video I thought would be really, really fun to tell, but it's like I can't remember it, you know? Like I can't... So this was the point in which I was the most manic, because I think like earlier in the weekend, like Monday and Tuesday, I'd been like sort of manic, and then pulling the all-nighter and all this stress from the election made me go really manic. And then it was like, this I think was on Friday night. Yeah, this was on, so we met on Wednesday and Friday. We like went on dates or met up, whatever you want to call it. And so Friday was like the peak of the mania. And so I was just like talking and 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 just telling him everything ever, like just completely emotionally vulnerable. But the thing is, like, he was being emotionally vulnerable back. He just told me all these things, like his mom, she's still alive, but she got cancer twice when he was growing up. And he said how he isn't emotionally close to his dad or his brother or anyone, and how the last girl he was with, he told her he loved her and then she couldn't say it back. So just all these really like in-depth things as well. I feel like he trusted me so much, and it's because when someone is being so extremely emotionally open, then the other person feels like they can trust as well. And so I could just pick up from some other things he'd said to me that he is just not the type of person, like what I just said, where he's not close to even his family. Like I asked him like what does he need like minimal to be like content in life, and he told me that he only needs himself. He said he doesn't need other people, and I don't know, he was just letting on that he isn't like really emotionally close with so many people. And I think the first night he'd said something like, I hate it when people try to change me. And then I said right after so fast, I love when people try to change me. I love changing people. It's the purpose of life. I remember when we were walking at this like hike thing, we were like walking next to each other, and it was really pretty. Like there were like deer and everything, and there was like a forest. Like it was really, really beautiful. The moon, it was like one of the days where like the moon is like the biggest moon for like the whole year or something. It was a day like that. It was really, really beautiful. And he asked me, so are you going to change me? Kind of like surrendering to what I'd argued to him earlier. He was also being very physical with me, and like this is something where looking back I just really like don't like it, because like I've had this happen before with a guy where when I was manic, it was the same exact feeling after, where I feel so used and just like confused how a guy could go along with that. Just because it's almost like, okay, like I'm crazy. I'm literally in a crazy manic episode right now. I'm acting like this because I'm crazy. What are you doing? So then he's like, hey, I really, really like you. I want to see where things will go from here. And then I remember saying, I was going to cut you off. I just want to play you. You're going to get hurt by me. Like, I don't even know. There's this thing in Mania called like grandiosity. And I don't know if that's where this was coming from, but it was just weird. I was just telling him, yeah, like I'm going to hurt you. You're going to get hurt by me. I always just play guys, hurt guys, which is just like, no, I hate hurting people. Like I pray so hard to like not hurt a guy I'm talking to if I'm not into him. I don't know, this was just something like, it was so weird. And I remember like the text I just read you that I had texted to my friend Nicole, we were like sitting down and I showed him them. And he's like, you want me to be a jerk? Do you want me to be a jerk? Like, who do you want me to be? And it was almost like in The Notebook. I can't believe reference stupid movies just because I was in like in a vulnerable emotional state, you know? Like, there's this one scene where they're like walking, and it's kind of when she's still kind of ignoring him. And he's like, I can be this, I can be this.
That could be fun if you want. Pensive, smart, superstitious, brave.
You're dumb.
That could be that.
It was like the same sentiment that like he was doing. He was like, I can be a jerk, I can play you, I can be awful, like what do you want from me, kind of thing. He's holding me and we're silent, feeling the wind and the forest. I feel so wanted and known, and I'm manic. Completely manic. My mind is racing all over the place, talking on and on and on, because I'll burst if I don't keep talking. He wrestles his hand over my mouth, trying to get me to calm down, and I try to stay still, look up at the trees and the dark, but it's all incredibly boring and nothing's moving, and everything feels so simplistic and too peaceful and all anticlimactic to be my actual life. We're standing on a bridge looking out at this pathetic pond, and I tell him this crazy life predicament I'm dealing with. How I don't know if my hypomanic self is really me. Am I faking myself? Am I me right now? Is my calm self even part of me? Maybe they're both you, he says. And I remember feeling like he just revealed the most beautiful, amazing epiphany, like he had just solved hundreds of hours of what I'm working through in therapy. He understood me better than all of my friends. I explained to him that I'm an introvert, that I'm calm, and that my favorite thing is sitting next to people and not saying anything, just being. I wonder if anyone listening to a manic girl could ever believe that I'm a completely different person, that the next time he meets me, I'll be a completely different person. And that's what I kept saying to him as well. It's really tragic looking back, and I wonder how he sees it. Like, I wonder if to him, like, I think after he realized what had happened, I think it shocked him, because he realized like, wow, I was interacting with this person on drugs essentially. And that's what I kept saying. I kept saying like, I'm so manic, kind of as like a joke, and I don't think he realized how bad it was, and I certainly didn't realize how bad it was either. So when people go really manic, they will have sex with someone who they're not in a relationship with. Like if they're married, they will cheat on their spouse, and it's something where they don't really have control over it. It's not like, oh, I'm manic, haha, I can go cheat on you. It's like, no, like you're not in the right mindset. And I kind of felt that to where like I put hypersexuality in the title. Like I've never ever like, I didn't do anything. I didn't even kiss him at all. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, because I was manic, like I was feeling different than I would have towards a situation like that. Like I told him, like he asked me, he like wanted me to kiss him, and I told him no, and I'm like, I don't want to kiss you, just because I'm very like slow physically when it comes, usually I'm very slow physically when it comes to guys. So I am like really grateful that I had that amount of like control like left in me. Like there's this one logic that I was like able to follow. Because I think in any other circumstance like that, if someone is manic, like it's like being drunk. Like they cannot give consent physically. It's just, you can't. And this is something too where like my therapist is like, you know, you have to get on more medicine, you need to get it under control. And I think that for me, like right after this happened, I wrote out like 6,000 words, a story about everything that had happened between us, and it was really good writing. And so it's like, I'll get so manic and I'll be in these dangerous, sketchy situations that could hurt me emotionally or physically, but then it's like all this beautiful writing, all these ideas, inspiration comes out of the experience. And so it's like telling me that I can't fully feel my own emotions that I was given. It's just, it feels so like subjugating, and I just can't. That's why like I made my video like addicted to mania. That's kind of what it was about. Like I can't get unaddicted from this. Like I know it's dangerous, but I can't get away from it because it's me. Like I can't give up myself. It's just, it's terrible. It's like this illness, and it's dangerous, but it's how you come to understand who you are. And I was talking to my therapist about it after it happened, and she was just saying like, you could have been raped, you could have been hurt so much by this guy, you know, you were alone with him, you didn't know him at all, like it was just a terrible situation you put yourself in. And it's like, while she was saying that, I was just kind of laughing and like so happy, because it was like what I explained at the beginning, where it was like this fairy tale. Like, at the time I was just saying like, you're so cliche, like you're so cliche, because he just seemed like, you know, like the perfect, like everything he was saying and doing was just like exactly like what you want from like the ideal guy. But then looking back, it's just like I was just getting played, you know, like was any of it even real? And like I'll never know that because I was manic at the time, so my perceptions of the entire situation I can't really trust. So then the rest of the weekend, all of this is becoming unwound. So then on Saturday, I text him with this brilliant idea of going to the beach and watching the sunset together at 5 a.m. Meeting up at the beach at 5 a.m. to watch the sunrise. And he had mentioned how he hadn't been to the beach yet because he had just moved here. So I texted him that, and he like never replied. And then Saturday night going into Sunday night, I woke up in hour-and-a-half increments, because when I'm really manic and can't sleep, it's like I keep like waking up after each cycle. Like my body doesn't want me to keep sleeping, so I'll wake up, and then if I try really hard, I can like force myself to go back to sleep to keep sleeping. I have very like my dreams are very like prophetic kind of thing, or like they just reveal things to me about how I feel about, I don't know how to explain it. Each time I would wake up, I would almost have like a vision. I realized like what was actually happening on his end. It's like I almost like saw what was happening or what was going to happen in advance. If you're bipolar, comment below, like do you have dreams like this? Because my dreams have always been like, sometimes I'll be editing a video and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I dreamed about this like 3 months ago. I had a dream about editing this video. Like I just like, I will see things before they happen sometimes. Like I fully believe I have some sort of like weird gift because of this. So by the time Sunday had come around, I was kind of at the peak of manic, and I was just becoming more aware of what had happened, and I kind of realized that okay, I'm manic, I'm being intense and crazy, but you are as well, but you're not manic, so what's going on? I remember feeling angry at him and just being confused and just feeling like tricked. And so I finally text him and I was really angry because when you get to the top of manic, it's like this like anger manic type thing going on. I was kind of harsh with the way I texted him, which to be honest is kind of, it was true, but it wasn't right. Maybe it was good he heard that, I don't know, because like normally I never ever would have been like that with the guy. I would have been very calm and gentle and indirect, but because I was manic, it was just like full force. So I'm just gonna put this on the screen of kind of what I wrote to him when I was less manic, kind of looking back and just like explaining to him what had happened. Everything is a blur and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. The last time I was manic was summer. It is never supposed to happen on medicine. And I explained how the election is everything of what triggered it, how I was outside of reality, and just, I don't know, I didn't even think when I was sending this what it might feel like reading it. So comment below like how would you feel if you were receiving this from someone you've been going out with. You have never met me. It was like a euphoric autopilot taking over, telling you all of my secrets, and it feels like someone implanted these memories of you into my brain and none of it feels real. I'm confused what you were thinking and feeling. Maybe you genuinely liked whoever I was, but then when it built up too much, you realized I was acting crazy. And then I think that this part is just how it's like not my normal is kind of what hurt me the most about the whole situation. I'm gonna make a whole other video just talking about stigma, just because it was almost like because I'd been manic when he met me, anything else I said about the state of my mental illness, he couldn't trust. Because it was like my perspective is diluted because I have bipolar, because I'm manic. And it was something that really, really hurt me just because it was the first time anyone had ever stigmatized me. And maybe when I'm in the most manic episode I've ever been, that's when I should be stigmatized. But I think that after I had come down from being so manic, I was rationally discussing it and apologizing, and I think he still like, he wasn't accepting that I wasn't crazy. And it was almost like, okay, like I never ever want to meet you again just because you happened to be manic when I met you. And like I said at the beginning, I was not even that attracted to this guy. I'm very confident that if I met him right now, we wouldn't even like each other at all. So that was kind of the whole story. So my general thoughts on the situation. So I'm always sort of manic. I have been my whole life. So in general with guys, I always take initiative. I'm very emotionally open, very impulsive, and I think because I have like this manic part of me, even when I'm not in manic episodes, I've always just been very fearless in sharing my feelings with people, and I'm never really scared, you know? Like I think, like especially with this guy, it was like when you're meeting someone new and you're scared and you have like that, you know, nervous energy, it's like you don't want to say everything on your mind, like it's scary. And it wasn't scary at all. Absolutely everything on my mind I just said immediately, and it was like this like extreme courage, and it was beautiful. And looking back on the situation with like what amount I can even remember, it's almost like I want to be more like that person. I want to be someone who, when I'm meeting a new guy, is just completely emotionally open and I'm not scared of what I'm saying or how I'm coming across, but I'm just being me, like fully being me. And that's what mania is. It's like you can't not be yourself because you don't have like that impulse control. Him kind of never wanting to see me again, I obviously, like looking back now, even months later, I completely understand his perspective. But for me, it was just really, it was like my first experience where someone wasn't able to get to the core of me and see the truth of what I am because they saw that covered up with this mental illness term. He was really scared to get close to someone because he'd been hurt. And I feel like that too, where I don't like getting close to people. I'm scared of getting really, really, really close to people just because my family moved a lot growing up. And so for me, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna move away again. It's like this subliminal thing in my mind. And so I think both of us, it's like, we're scared of getting close to someone, and then it's like when you get too close too fast, it's just like you get scared and you like want to run away. He opened up to me really fast. I understand most people really well. I remember I was like explaining something to him about his personality with like the way he'd explained something, and he was just like, I've never had someone analyze me like this before, I don't like it. And so I think he just like it was too close and he didn't like it and I didn't want it either. But I think at the time I was just like kind of fighting him to like actually like meet me when I'm not manic, just because it was like how I explained at the beginning, like it was this storybook, like I was inside this like amazing novel, and then I step out of it and then it's like this guy who was amazing in the novel like isn't a real person, and it's like I want to meet the guy who the guy in the novel is based upon, even if he's not as good. I just want to meet him, and I never got to just meet him. So I have all these emotions and they're not even from something I experienced. It's just something I can see looking over from behind. From now on with guys, I obviously like, I don't ever let myself get that manic. It was like, it just happened because of not getting enough sleep, because of the election. I couldn't really control it. It's this amazing, amazing feeling because you're like outside of reality and you're completely free. Like you're not constrained by anything. And you're just like pure yourself. You say whatever you feel, whatever you think, and you just like, you don't care and you trust, and like it's beautiful. And I think all of these things have always been kind of like parts of me, but then it's just like exemplified during Mania. So yeah, that was a really, really, really long story. Also, I just think like if a guy seems like too good to be true and like so fast early on is just acting like so absolutely amazing and charming and so into you, then it's probably not real. I kept saying that like, you're so cliche, you're cliche, you're cliche. Like I kept saying that to him, and because I was manic, I was blocked from like fully seeing him for who he was. And so if you're dealing with a guy who all of a sudden seems really into you, then something's wrong. And just in general, like this is something I never ever do with guys. I'm very slow to open up to someone. I have to have like this trust established into who they are, and I'm just very, very careful with emotional boundaries with guys, because when I start to share certain like emotional or spiritual things, like that's when I will get really hurt if it ends. And so it's kind of something like formulaic where I build up when to be able to trust someone. And so with this guy, it's like because you're manic, like all of your emotions, everything you've ever wanted to share with anyone just comes out all at once, and it's just really unhealthy to be so fast so early on emotionally. Like you have to like gradually build these things on to make them healthy relationships. Something else that really, really hurt me from the situation is that he kind of implied that he wasn't strong enough to take care of me, which is true. He doesn't seem to be someone who's on it emotionally with understanding himself or other people. But I think more so he made it seem like I needed someone to take care of me. And that is something that kind of just like stuck with me, where a guy will view me because I'm bipolar as I'm emotionally weak and I need like a caretaker, and I take care of myself with my bipolar. Like I cry, like I said, every night. It's really, really painful and I hate it. Like I hate being bipolar so much as there are these things that are a part of my personality. Like I would not be me without bipolar. I hate that it exists. It's just terrible. It affects me every single day. There's something, and it just has destroyed my sense of self. So yeah, it's terrible. And of course I need people, but I don't need a guy to be like super emotional support. Like that's not what I need from a relationship. And it was just something where I was so emotionally open about like not feeling understood by people in my life with bipolar, and so then he took that as I'm emotionally like needy or weak, or, and I guess I hated that he labeled it like that. And then I think the most tragic thing is after all of it happened, I basically texted him saying that he shouldn't date someone with bipolar because people with bipolar shouldn't be in relationships. That's kind of like what I made it seem like, and then I think that's exactly what I believed when I was manic. I just feel like my ex definitely labeled me like this too, where he just saw me as like emotionally chaotic, and like that's just like who I am. I made a video talking about like my insecurities, like emotional insecurities, like when I was a junior in college, like a couple years ago. I'm gonna link it below. you should go watch it. Just talking about, and I kind of talk about this, like about being labeled like emotionally chaotic. And so I think that's something where it's kind of like a fear I've had for a while, but now it's like I know why I have that fear. And it's not like a fear, like I never ever think about that. Like I'm talking to a guy right now and I'm not like thinking about like, oh, I'm emotionally chaotic. Like I don't think about this, but this is just like, this was a moment where I like thought about it again. It's just kind of like this subliminal thing, like I'm so emotionally intense, like I'm so much emotionally, and it's almost like who is able to handle that? And the answer is a guy who's really emotionally strong and emotionally competent and confident. And Collin was not the guy with like extreme emotional competency and intelligence. So that was my whole story, and I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope that it even like made sense in your head as a story, just because like for me, I can't like put into words what happened because I don't know what happened. But just go read the thing I wrote on my website. It will probably like help you connect everything. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
I wanna bleed the way you bleed, but you only get half of me.
So you cry, oh yeah, you cry.